Hi, thanks for being here. Just a little background on why I wrote the book. My book is called Uncommon Core, 25 Ways to Help Your Child Succeed in a Cookie-Cutter Educational System. I was a high school English teacher for 11 years, and during that time, I just saw so many wonderful things from my students, but I also saw a lot of the programs that were coming in, the government mandates and legislation. We started with No Child Left Behind and then Race to the Top, and all that started to really affect my students. It started to affect my colleagues, and the biggest issue was definitely what my students were experiencing, but also what my son was experiencing. He just had started third grade in the year that I decided to retire. And it was really difficult to get him the help that he needed. He had a brain tumor, a cancerous brain tumor, when he was 4. And it did cause a few issues for his learning, and just for him learning even just how to help himself. And so a lot of my book is not only about my teaching experiences, but about my experiences as a mom and what I learned in all those years teaching and with my children. And one of the biggest hot topics that I noticed in education was the anti-bullying programs that started to come about in the last 5-6 years that I was teaching. And the programs were wonderful. They talked about kindness and compassion, and they were so moving. I remember watching one of the assemblies that we had, students just crying and just so upset and really feeling like, oh, this is going to change everything and everyone's going to be nice to each other. And the fact of the matter was that it didn't work that way. Actually, none of the programs really work. If anything, I've seen an increase in bullying, or at least an increase in what people say is bullying. And I think one of the reasons why is because we really can't teach kindness and compassion. That's something that our role models do, right? We learn about that kind of stuff from our role models. And if we don't have parents that are teaching us kindness and compassion and how to deal with that, or if we don't have teachers in our lives, adults in our lives that are teaching us those things, then we're really not going to make a big change. The other big reason why these anti-bullying programs don't work is that it's really hard to find anyone that admits to being a bully. Right? I would take a survey in my class. I would watch it happen. I would watch one student just say horrible things to another student, and the student had to leave. She was so upset. And then, I would decide, okay, well, I'm going to address this in the class. Let's talk about bullying. And so I would ask everybody in the class. I had about 30 students. Who in here has ever been bullied? Every single hand went up. And then I would say, okay, who in here is a bully? No one raised a hand. And even though I just watched that student hurt that girl, and they don't like to admit that. And the reason why, it's not so much that they don't want to admit it, but sometimes they just think, well, I'm just being funny. That's all it is. It's a joke. Or the other is, I'm just being truthful. They needed to hear the truth, and I was just helping them out. And so that's why we really aren't working and helping our students understand how to bring kindness and compassion, because everyone thinks that they're doing it already. So how are we going to fix that? So if we can't fix bullying, what can be done? Well, we can help strengthen our children. We can teach them, we can strengthen them by teaching them to believe in themselves. We can teach them to stand up for themselves. We can teach them not to give their power away. And so if we don't do something like that, then everyone that our children will run into will become a bully, because they're always going to be opposed in some way, shape, or form. And just to illustrate that fact, I'm teaching college right now at a community college, and I had a college student write a persuasive essay. at least what she thought was persuasive, and really what it was venting. She was just really angry. She's but 19 years old, and she's angry at the adults in her life. She's angry at teachers, at professors. She's angry at parents. She's angry, and one of the things that she pulled out and what she was trying to write about actually was how she's so sick and tired of hearing how her generation is this entitled generation that has to be coddled and babied. And she's like, they don't understand how hard our lives are. And, I laugh about that because I remember being young and thinking the same thing. But what really struck me was this, in her essay, this quote that I pulled out for this. She said, "We feel angry inside, like nothing is going our way. We feel like the teachers are against us. Students need someone to blame, so the only option is our teachers, because they fail to be empathetic towards us." And I thought that was so telling, that, she didn't want to blame herself. She didn't want to say, I have to be accountable. I have to do something about where my life is headed. We need someone to blame. And I feel like that's what's happening to the bullying programs. We're looking for someone to blame, because people are making us feel bad about ourselves. So we have to find someone. So my response to that is to teach my son, my students, to stand up for themselves. And that's the chapter I'm going to read to you. Chapter 10, teach them to stand up for themselves. Obviously, not all children will be respectful and kind to each other. It will be necessary at some point for a child to stand his ground. Parents need to have conversations with their children about when it will be necessary to stand up for themselves, and then give them the tools, words, and confidence to say enough is enough in a mature way. In high school, I've seen many examples of students standing up for themselves, either proactively or, unfortunately, destructively. I can illustrate both behaviors through an experiment I conducted every year with my freshmen while teaching George Orwell's Animal Farm. In the social experiment, I told students to imagine that they had rebelled against my authority and that they had to figure out how to become a functioning English classroom on their own. As per human nature, one student would rise up and take over leadership. The type of leader that student was created the various scenarios in the classroom. And I did devote a whole chapter on this one social experiment, so there's more in the book about that. The proactive self-defense came one year when a leader was being very narrow-minded. He was popular and surrounded himself with his friends. However, if someone said something against him, he shut down the objector. One such objector, Andy, would not stay quiet. He very calmly said that the leader was abusing his power and that it might be time to elect a new leader. Even when many people started yelling at Andy to sit down and shut up, Andy stood his ground. He did not cower. He did not resort to their negative behavior. Even though not much came of his objection, he had the courage and discipline to give voice to his concerns in a respectful way. I was so proud of him, and told him so after the experiment was over. I also encouraged other students to remember Andy's example the next time someone tried to intimidate them. The destructive self-defense example came during another class when a leader was actually replaced by a majority vote. This student, Patrick, was so angry and hurt by the overthrow that he became belligerent and did everything possible to sabotage the new leadership. He shouted, threw things, called the new leaders names, and turned his music on to disrupt the class. At the end of the experiment, I told Patrick that I understood why he was hurt, but that his behavior proved why he didn't deserve to be in leadership. So this next section is called my mommy memoirs. Every 5th chapter I devoted to my parenting and of my son. And so this one is about an incident that happened when he was in 2nd grade. So one night when Ian was in 2nd grade, he told me he was getting picked on by kids at school. Ian told one friend that he was going to be Spider-Man someday. And that friend told other kids. Those kids picked on him and told him that he was not going to be Spider-Man. Ian was angry and sad that people didn't believe him. My heart sank while I watched my sweet boy cry over his pain. Of course, my first instinct was to swoop in and rescue him. But that was not what Ian needed. I contemplated telling Ian that the other kids were right. He can't be Spider-Man because Spider-Man isn't real. But that was not what Ian needed either. I'm not sure if people will understand why I nurture all of Ian's dreams and goals, even the unbelievable ones. Years ago, after we found his brain tumor, we didn't know if Ian was going to see his 5th birthday or not. I would not let anyone I would not let anyone even speak in our presence of Ian not having a future, let alone tell Ian that he could not do or be anything he wanted to be when he grew up. I believe with my whole heart that allowing Ian to see whatever future he wanted for himself helped cure him. The rarity and severity of that cancerous tumor could not defeat Ian's will to live, to see himself fulfill his dreams. He not only saw his 5th birthday, but he is still celebrating birthdays without one recurrence of cancer, a miracle in itself. Ian's cancer battle gave him a lot of self-confidence. He has fought and won some difficult battles. Of course, it helped him to feel strong. Sometimes he has a little more confidence than he should, like one time when he imagined a target above his head. He believed he could kick that high, which he did, but he didn't know what to do with his body once it was horizontally in the air. He ended up falling on his side, bruising every part that hit the ground. I know this abundance of confidence in his physical abilities will continue to cause him pain as his perception and reality collide. But I hope he dusts himself off every time with the same profound mantra. I guess I better learn how to fall before I try that again. Learning how to fall is a crucial part of reaching for our dreams. Otherwise, we will give up thinking only of the pain rather than working towards the goal. I know Ian can handle physical pain. He has proven that repeatedly in his short life. I'm worried about emotional pain. As confident as he was in his vision for himself as a younger child, I now see it waning as he gets older, as things get harder and as other kids and adults tell him he can't believe in his dreams. Children telling him he will not be Spider-Man is just another fall. I needed to teach him how to accept that reality without giving up on his dreams. Holding my crying boy in my arms did not leave me much time to plan what to say, so I just started talking. First, don't get angry, bud. Some kids just think it's funny to watch other people get angry. So if you stop getting angry, they might stop picking on you. Really? Ian was shocked. That's not nice. I know, but that's just how some people are. I watched Ian close his eyes and start taking deep breaths and letting them out slowly. Are you okay? I asked. Yeah, I'm just trying to release my anger. That's good, bud. Always remember to do that as soon as you feel the anger welling up. Ian opened his wet eyes and smiled at me. And so I continued. The other thing you have to know is that people have the right to believe what they want to believe. When they say you're not going to be Spider-Man, tell them they can believe what they want. The beautiful thing about that is that you have the right to believe what you want to believe too. You don't have to say another thing. Yeah, I can just say, you believe what you want and I'll believe what I want. That's right, bud. You can't change people. Don't try to win an unwinnable argument. The more you fight with them, the more they'll fight with you. I then shared with Ian one of my childhood dreams. Did you know that when I was little, I wanted to be Barbie when I grew up? I thought she was so pretty. And I didn't think I was pretty at all. But guess what? I grew up pretty. And I look nothing like Barbie. Ian just looked at me for a bit and made the connection on his own. I guess there are other ways to be a hero. You're right, there are lots of ways. Why do you like Spider-Man? Well, I like that Spider-Man chases and catches bad guys and that he helps people. I smiled. That's right. A hero does good things and doesn't hurt people, even if those people say mean things to the hero. I guess police officers are like that, but I don't want to be a police officer. You don't have to be. There are all kinds of heroes, bud. You know, some people have said I'm a hero because I'm a teacher. Really? Ian's eyes opened wide. Yeah, it's because I try to help kids be the best they can be. A lot of my students tell me how much they appreciate that. Yeah, a teacher is a hero. I added, and so are doctors and firemen. Anyone who wants to help people can be a hero. I never thought about that before. Ian was quiet for a bit, and then he said, but Mom, I'm still going to be Spider-Man someday. You know what, buddy? No one knows the future. So how can those kids tell you that you won't figure out how to be Spider-Man someday? That story hasn't been written yet, so no one can tell you what you will or won't become. That's right, no one knows the future. I can figure it out. I know I can. His confidence returned. He happily kissed me goodnight. I helped him brush the pain away. It's a good thing, too, because even heroes need to learn how to fall. The next day, Ian came home excited. Mom, it worked. I can't believe it worked. What worked, bud? Tommy started picking on me today about not being Spider-Man, so I said to him, you believe what you want to believe, and I'll believe what I want to believe. Do you know what he said after that? No, what? He said, "I'm sorry, Ian." Really? No, I was the one who was shocked. Yeah, isn't that great? It really worked. Thanks for telling me to say that, Mom. While I embraced my son, I realized that heroes can also help others find the goodness within themselves. That's it. Thank you.
Great.